What's up everyone, welcome back. Patrick here, moving on to the next video dealing with domain range functions. This scenario in particular, it's a real life scenario, if you will. And so what's happening is we are given this graph here where we're shown what the cost for a video studio is depending on how many hours you rent it for. And we have to talk about first why this relation has to be a function in relation to the scenario, to the actual real world scenario. And then we have to find out what's the domain and range going to be from this graph. Now, just to explain what's going on here. So if you rent this studio between 0 and 1 hours, right? And you're not going to rent it for 0 hours. That's why there's a hole here. Okay, no one's going to rent it for 0 hours. So they would rent it maybe for like minimum, let's say, just above 0. So like 0.00001 hours, right? And that goes infinitely towards 0. But just to keep it simple, let's say they could rent it for a minute, then 2 minutes, then 3 minutes, right? All the way to 60 minutes, right? For 1 hour. So anywhere in between there, the cost is going to be $20. Now anything between 1 and 2 hours, but notice that there's a hole here, right? So it's not including, this part is not including the 1 hour. If you rent it all the way up until 1 hour, up until that 60th minute, including the 60th minute, it's going to be $20. But anything above 60 minutes, all the way to 120 minutes, or all the way to 2 hours, including the 2 hours, the cost is going to be $40. And then from 2 to 3, including the 3, but not including the 2, because the 2 was right here. So from 2 to 3, it's going to be $55. And then from 3 to 4, it's going to be $65. Okay, so now why does this relation have to be a function? Well, if you think about it, the answer for part A is you can't have two prices for one time. Right? There always has to be only one price for whatever time you rent it, right? So it wouldn't make sense if this is a solid dot here and this was a solid dot, because now there would be two prices for this 1 hour, right? Are you getting charged $20 or are you getting charged $40? That doesn't make sense, right? It has to be only one of them. And so that's why this has to be a function, because there can't be multiple prices, right? It always has to pass the vertical line test. There can't be multiple prices for the same number of hours that you're renting this studio, right? So it's always passing this vertical line test throughout this whole graph. Even where it seems like there's 2 points, one of them is solid, one of them is a hole, right? And so it's only that solid one that we're counting for that specific time. Okay, so that's the answer for part A. That's why this scenario has to be a function, because you can't have two rental prices for the same number of hours that you are renting it. Right, so now in part B, what's the domain going to be? So let's actually do this in a different color. So the domain. Well, if you think about it, or if you see, again, we said that this is going to be a open dot, right? Because you can't rent it for 0 hours. You can only rent it above 0 hours. So you can rent it, it seems like all the way up to this point, up until 4 hours. Okay, anything above 4 hours, I guess that's the maximum for this studio. You can't rent it above that because there's no part of the graph, right? For x values greater than 4. Or you could say t values, or whatever this variable will be. Let's just say this is x. And so the domain is basically all real numbers. Again, you don't have to put x, you could put t if you want. As long as it's greater than 0, not including the 0, right? Because we can't rent it for 0 hours. So it's greater than 0, but less than or equal to that maximum value of +4, right? That's where it ends. That's the maximum number of hours that we could rent this studio for, right? So it's from 0 x is greater than 0 but less than or equal to 4. And then in interval notation, we would say it's from 0, because it's not including the 0, there's a circle bracket there, all the way to 4. Now, what about the range? Well, notice that for the range, which is the cost, right, the y variables are representing the cost here, there's only 4 prices, right? So it's 20, it's 40, it's 55, and then it's 65, right? There's no prices in between. And so the range, the way we would state it, is we would just write out those prices. So we have 20, we got 40, we got 55, and then we have 65. That's what the range is going to be right here. Notice that we're not writing like YER here, because there's no, it's not like a linear function, right? There's no multiple prices between $20 and $40, right? So it's not going up with time. It's staying constant. Let me take this off. It's staying constant here up until 1 hour, and then it jumps to 40. And then it jumps to 55. There's nothing going on in between. There's no prices being charged in between. It's only those set prices of 20, 40, 55, and 65. And so we would just write the range like that. All right, so that's pretty much it for this question. Just an example where you're dealing with a real life scenario and relating it to why it has to be a function, and then finding the domain and range for it. And that's a wrap for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you want to see more videos like this, please go to my website, allthingsmathematics.com. Over there, all of the videos are organized by chapter, by section. If you feel like you need tutoring at any point, you could also hit me up. My contact details are on the website. Enjoy your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.